Let's make some homemade Jamaican patties. We're going to be making a beef patty and a cheese patty, so let's make it together. To a large bowl, we're going to start off by combining 2 cups of all-purpose flour, half tablespoon of white sugar, half teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of egg powder, and a quarter teaspoon of curry powder. We're then going to mix that well, ensuring that all those ingredients are mixed in perfectly together. Once we have that all mixed in, we're going to go ahead and add about a half cup of cold butter. I'm then going to go in with my hand to press that butter out and just mix it in with my flour. Once my butter is pressed out, I'm going to go in with about half cup of ice cold water. The colder the water, the better. And I'm just going to use my hand to form my dough. I'm going to knead that dough, but I don't want my dough to be too firm. So I'm going to be really gentle with how I'm kneading it. I'm just going to add cold water as needed until I form my dough. Once I'm done, this is what my dough looks like. I'm then going to wrap it in a saran wrap and place that in the fridge to chill for 50 minutes. While my dough is in the fridge, I'm going to start preparing my beef filling. So for the seasonings, I'll be using onion, garlic, thyme, scotch bonnet pepper, and scallion. I'm just going to chop those up nice and fine, and then I'm going to start cooking my beef. I'm going to start off by adding my lean ground beef to a heated pot. I'm not going to add any oil because if you've made ground beef before, you know that it springs its own oils. So I'm going to go ahead and just add my ground beef to a heated pot. I'm going to break that down and I'm going to allow that to brown. Once our beef is brown, we're just going to remove that from the pot and put that in a separate container. Using that same pot, we're going to go ahead and saute our vegetables. So I'm just going to pour those in. At that point, I noticed I need a little bit more oil. So I just added about 1 tablespoon of oil, and then I'm going to saute those until the onion is translucent. Next, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of curry powder. The more I'm cooking is the more I'm realizing that curry is the base of a lot of different meals. So I'm going to go ahead, add 1 tablespoon of curry powder. I'm going to saute that down with my vegetables, and then I'm going to re-add my ground beef to the pot. I'm just going to give that a quick mix and incorporate my ground beef with my seasonings. I'm then going to lightly season my pot with some powdered seasoning. I'm going to add garlic powder, onion powder, and all-purpose seasoning. I'm going to lightly season it because I'm going to be adding soy sauce, which has a lot of salt. So to prevent or to avoid my meat being salty, I'm just going to lightly season my pot with a powdered seasoning. I'm then going to add a quarter cup of soy sauce. I know my cup says half, but I didn't add all of it, so in total I added a quarter cup. I'm then going to mix that thoroughly, cover my pot, and allow that to simmer down. While that's cooking down, I'm going to go ahead and blend up some bread and water. That bread and water mixture that we're going to blend up is actually going to be poured into our ground beef, and it's going to trap all the moisture from your meat. That way, even if you warm up your patty a week from now or a couple of days from now, it's still going to be nice and moist, and that meat is still going to be juicy because this mixture is going to trap all that moisture in. Once my beef is ready, I'm going to go ahead and just pour that mixture in. I'm going to pour about quarter cup in, fold that in. I'm going to let that sit on the stove on low for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to pour all my ground beef into my blender. I'm going to blend that up. I like the way the ground beef looks when it's blended. This step is completely optional. If you want to keep your ground beef as is, that's completely okay. But I like to blend mine because once it's blended, it gives me that look of a Jamaican patty. I'm then going to set this to the side. At this point, 50 minutes should have passed, so I'm going to go back to working on my crust. I'm going to start by flouring my workstation and also flouring my rolling pin, and then I'm going to remove my dough from the fridge. I'm going to start rolling. At this step, I'm going to just roll until I have my dough nice and flat. I'm going to be adding flour as I go because the flour is going to prevent my dough from sticking to the work surface or sticking to my rolling pin. So I'm going to roll until my dough is nice and flat. Once I have my dough where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and start adding cold butter. The cold butter that I'm adding is going to help to the flakiness of your crust. So you want to add your cold butter as you go. You want to keep this dough as cold as possible. So we're going to add our cold butter. I'm going to roll. This took me about 5 to 10 minutes of rolling to incorporate the butter properly. So just take your time, roll your dough until your butter is nice and incorporated. Next, I'm going to go ahead and slice my dough in half just to make it a bit easier to work with. I'm going to slice my dough in half. I'm then going to put the other half of the dough that I'm not working on right now back into the fridge because you want to keep that dough as cold as possible. I'm then going to continue rolling the half that I'm working on. And once I have it nice and flat, again, you don't want it too thin, but you want it nice and flat so that your crust isn't bulky. But I'm going to go ahead, widen that a bit, and I'm going to start adding my beef. I'm going to be making both beef and cheese. So with this batter, I'm going to go ahead and make the beef. I'm going to add about 1/3 cup of ground beef. I'm then going to fold my dough over to the other side, pressing in the sides to create a seal. I'm then going to take a knife and cut down the middles to separate the 3 patties. Once we have the patties separated, we're then going to go around the edges with a knife to form the shape of the patty. Then we're going to use a fork to press in the tips, which is actually going to seal our patty. Once we have them sealed, I'm going to go ahead and start placing my beef patties on the rack. I've already lined the rack and also buttered the rack to prevent my patties from sticking. So to my buttered rack, I'm going to add my 3 beef patties and I'm going to start prepping my cheese patties. The process for making my cheese patty is the very same as the one before. The only difference is that I'm going to be placing slices of cheddar cheese on the inside and then sealing them up. Once I have them sealed, I'm going to place them on that same lined rack as I have my beef patties on, and then I'm going to start prepping my oven to bake. Once I have them all prepped, I'm going to bake these at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, this is what my patty looks like. I had to give it a top and pick off a bit of the flake just to show you guys that my patty was flaky too. If you've ever had a Jamaican patty, you know that the flake gets everywhere. So I just wanted to show you the flakiness as well. I really do hope that you guys will give this recipe a try. But until next time, bye.